It was not until 1959 that I picked up my first camera, an Agfa Select costing £9, 17 shillings and sixpence in old money. The following year I joined the Dorking Camera Club and learnt the craft of real photography with a fully manual camera. I must have been listening because that season, to everyone's surprise, I came first in the annual slide competition, and this was the shot Preston railway station taken when steam trains still ran on the network. I don't think it would do so well today. I remained an amateur photographer until 1979 before taking the plunge into the professional market by starting my own photographic library of UK landscapes. My images were reproduced on maps, in books and calendars, my own books, and illustrated articles for magazines. I also ran photographic holidays for HF Holidays for 25 years, and I taught photography at Ernley Concourse, Farncombe and Nuston Hall. Today, in semi-retirement, I gain enormous pleasure from running this YouTube channel, a product of COVID. As a diversion from landscapes, I also take our wonderful architecture. So, let's pause for a moment at Beverley Minster in Yorkshire and have a look around. One of my favourite places for HF photographic holidays was Derwent Bank in the Lake District. This is Derwentwater early morning, and the hotel is just behind me. I'll give you the metadata. Notice I spot meter and stop down to avoid flare when working with a zoom lens. In addition to sunrises, this is a wonderful area for landscape photography of the highest order. Much of my work is picture postcard intended for commercial reproduction, but I do like to indulge occasionally by taking a moody shot intended for showing at my local camera club, where it receives stiff competition when entered competitively. Success is often driven by weather in both departments, and in this shot rain was less than a minute away, and I had to act very quickly by taking a snap. No time for photographic correctness here. For 20 years during the 80s and 90s, I used a Hasselblad 500cm medium format film camera. With this wonderful instrument, I extended my activities a little further beyond these shores by accepting commissions to take photographs in Ireland, Denmark, Norway, and France. Perhaps the most amazing image was taken on the summit of Ben Nevis in Scotland, of a Brocken spectre. And no, this is not a filter job. This is a straight digital copy from a medium format photograph. Progressing to digital, a selection now of images taken around Britain. When shooting into the light, especially with the sun in shot, I stop down to f16 or 22 to reduce flare when using a zoom. Although my movements were restricted on this cliff top, the positioning of the rock stack was rather important. It is often said that the best landscape shots are taken within a mile of your doorstep, so here's mine. Many photographers don't like hard light, but by careful exposure, preferably spot aided by an electronic finder, it does bring out cliff patterns, and this is a shot I regard as commercial. On the other hand, a touch of Yorkshire mist, a variation on the best shot taken locally, but here taken from the grounds of a hotel where I happened to be staying. Beaches are wonderful opportunities for patterns, especially when the eye is led towards the far horizon, creating depth to a two-dimensional image. Now with this shot, the River Tweed leads the eye to the distant hills. Notice too the importance of foreground interest, adding its own depth, sharpness guaranteed by a small aperture and the hyperfocal distance. When cloudy, even wet, I seek sanctuary inside a church or stately home, and cathedrals don't come much larger in the UK than Liverpool Anglican, and this is just the Lady Chapel. Whilst in Liverpool, I popped down the road to the Metropolitan Cathedral, the interior illuminated by artificial light from outside. Photography is not permitted at Brompton Oratory, so I was a very naughty boy and sneaked in this shot, but no such problems at Much Wenlock. Here the level of light was very low, but I have managed to handhold at 200 ISO with the help of an image stabilizer. Notice too a hidden and sometimes misunderstood advantage of Micro Four Thirds, extended depth of field when required at full aperture, and the same is true at Great Malvern Priory. Same technique, handheld and extended depth of field, with a touch of my old friend the hyperfocal distance. Witness at Covent Garden too the incredible depth of field at full aperture, and by keeping the ISO at 200 for maximum quality, and the same applies to the shopping centre at Canary Wharf. Both use wide-angle optics. They will increase depth of field. At Covent Garden, I went to the opera, and before the show commenced, I was a naughty boy again. Photography is not permitted during a performance, but nobody seems to take much notice during curtain calls. But I wasn't brave enough or foolish. After the opera, I sometimes have to cross the Thames. Camera ready on programme, and a quick snap as other people are milling about. When things are up against you, take a quick shot, which being digital as opposed to film always allows an equally quick deletion when it doesn't work. The Temple Church is in a quiet corner of London and sometimes used as a recording studio for choirs and small instrumental bands. Balancing the exposure of a dark interior with a much brighter window is tricky. I tend to spot meter towards the window, allowing the church interior to become underexposed, and then correct in Adobe Lightroom. Not an ideal technique, as noise can be added to the image. Very often with interiors you have to contend with a plethora of different light sources. In railway stations I put the white balance on auto, save to raw, and then correct any colour casts at home in Lightroom. But things are quieter in Peterborough Cathedral, where you have more time to play and experiment with camera controls. This is handheld, by the way, but I still have to be aware of the possibility of other people wandering into my shot. I can still climb the Lakeland Heights, usually taking a lightweight camera and not a plethora of gear that might give me a hernia. It is amazing how a zoom over the middle range gives superb results when walking the fells. And at the end of a photo day, I like to go for a sunset, but this one is some distance away from the Lake District. I have always held a fascination for heritage railways, and so this is where I end this show, but I'm going to let my hair down a bit, which incidentally I still have.